so many times we don't have hope in things, or we lose hope, or we start doubting. And it's because we wait so long sometimes for something to happen and it becomes hard. And I know what that feels like. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to be reading a scripture that many of you may know. It's the scripture about a woman with a flow of blood in the Bible. And I'm going to be reading from a New King James Version. I'm going to be reading Matthew 9, verses 20 to 22, if you want to follow along. And suddenly a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. For she said to herself, "If only I may touch his garment, I shall be made well." But Jesus turned around, and when he saw her, he said, "Be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well from that hour. And so I want to read, sometimes it's good, well, most of the times it's good to read from the other Gospels, the same story, so we can get a little bit more information on what's going on. So I'm going to be reading next Mark 5, verses 25 to 34. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." And so the next one we're going to be reading is Luke. It's going to be Luke 8, verses 43 to 48. Now a woman, having a flow of blood for 12 years, who had spent all her livelihood on physicians and could not be healed by any, came from behind and touched the border of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood stopped. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, "Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me, for I perceived power going out from me. Now when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared to him in the presence of all the people the reason she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said to her, "Daughter, be of good cheer. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." And so this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about our faith, and I want to talk about our hope that we have in Jesus. I went ahead and I wrote some notes down when I was reading these, and I want to go ahead and read them to you. So I wrote, if you notice, it says, "Your faith made you well." We are told to believe and not doubt. Here this woman believed that she would be healed, if only she touched the hem of Jesus' garment. Her faith pushed her to step out and do what seemed to be humanly impossible. Think about it this way. If you told someone that you were going to touch the hem of someone's garment, and once you did, you were going to be healed, do you think they would believe you? This also makes a great point as to why at times it's good not to tell everyone your every step, as most people may not understand it, and they may even try to discourage you from completing the task that you set out to do. I wrote that because, sometimes we go and we tell somebody maybe what God has told us or what he wants us to do, and not everybody is going to be very understanding of that. So we need to be careful with who we allow in the circle of who we tell the things that we're going to be doing. And we need to prayerfully consider those things, because it does matter, because somebody can try to throw you off track, so it's good to always pray and ask God to reveal these things to you on who is okay to tell. And obviously he answers our prayers, so he will hear you. And then I wrote, so the woman, she knew that Jesus's hem wasn't just anyone's hem. And she truly believed that if she touched the hem of his garment, she would be healed. To outsiders, this may seem ridiculous, but this woman, she was hoping for something that she could not see. Her hope didn't lie in what made sense, but instead in what seemed impossible. This brings me to Jesus. He may have walked this earth as a man, but his appearance is only what people saw on the outside. just as we see this in Mark 6, verses 1 to 6. Then he went out from there and came to his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, Where did this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such mighty works are performed by his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own relatives, and in his own house. Now he could do no mighty work there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. Then he went about the villages in a circuit, teaching. And then I wrote a little bit more underneath about, it says, Jesus, he had no honor in his own country. Why? Because the people who saw him only saw what they could see with their eyes, that he was the son of Mary and Joseph. They saw Jesus as a carpenter because that's all they could physically see. So that's what they chose to believe. Perception matters. How we choose to view others, the world, Jesus, or even ourselves matter. It makes all the difference. Jesus, he left his town not doing many miracles because of their unbelief, because they chose to see with their eyes instead of their heart, instead of the truth. So I ask you this, where is your faith? Are you still believing for the things that you have asked God for? The woman had an issue for 12 years, spent all of her money on doctors to no avail, yet she still believed. You would assume at this point, with what things looked like, was that she would never be healed. She had spent all her livelihood on physicians and could not be healed by any. But all it took was one touch of Jesus, one step of faith as she came from behind and touched the border of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood stopped. One step. So I ask you again, are you believing in what seems with your eyes to be impossible? Are you still believing, still having faith for what you cannot yet see? Our hope, our faith, it remains in the things that we cannot see. We can't physically see air, yet we believe it's there because we feel it. We believe in Jesus Christ, even though we can't physically see him all the time because we feel him. We believe in the thing that we have asked for because we can feel our hope rising up inside of us. Our trust in God and his promises, knowing that he always comes through for us. And so we hear just like this woman, we see that she had faith to step out. She had faith to do the thing that Jesus would have wanted us to do, is to step out in faith. And sometimes our hope sometimes we feel hopeless because if you think about it, 12 years, she spent her money. This could have been very, very discouraging to her. And I'm sure that it was, if it was me, I know it would discourage me a little bit, 12 years, spending all my money, nothing's getting better. I'm seeing all these physicians and to not get what she's asking for to happen, that's discouraging. But she didn't let the discouragement stop her. She didn't let doubt to creep in and stop her from doing the thing that she was supposed to do, which is stepping out and going to Jesus and touching the hem of his garment. And I wanted to point something else out here. So I'm going to be reading some scriptures. So many times we don't have hope in things, or we lose hope, or we start doubting. And it's because we wait so long sometimes for something to happen and it becomes hard. And I know what that feels like because I'm actually going through that right now. It's years and years and years have gone by and you're not seeing any change to what you're asking for, at least some of the things that you're asking for. And I can understand how that can be very discouraging. But I want to encourage you and remind you that Jesus, you can trust his words and the things that he tells us and the promises that he gives us. And I want you to see this. So in Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 43:2, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. And again, Matthew 28:20, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Amen. And then again in Genesis 28:15, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. And then again in Hebrews 13, verse 5, let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Then again, Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:8, and the Lord, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed. And then again, Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Are you seeing a pattern here? Are you seeing the fact that Jesus tells us he's gonna be with us? Whether you're going through a valley, whether you're going through a trial, whether you're losing hope, God is right there with you, going through it with you and for you. He's fighting for you, and sometimes it's hard to see that because we get so caught up in the fact that we start to feel hopeless. And I understand what that feels like. Like I said, I'm going through a few things now that, sometimes you can't see anything past it. And I can understand how that can feel sometimes, but you have to move those clouds away, move the darkness that's trying to overcome you, and realize that there is a light past that darkness, the light which comes from Jesus Christ. He's guiding you even though you can't see it. He's fixing things even though you don't know it. He is guiding you, and he is loving you, and he's protecting you, and he is doing everything with purpose and for a purpose. You might say, should I be happy? Am I supposed to be happy, that I'm hurting? Is this why it says to be content? No, it's not about being happy that you're hurting. It's knowing that there is a purpose in what God is doing, and whatever you're going through, there's a purpose for it. And so we have to look forward and look past what we can see with our eyes. This woman, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder how many more people were in that crowd with her. How many more people were there wanting to be healed by Jesus, but maybe they were afraid of the crowd. Maybe they had doubts and they allowed them to overcome them. Maybe they were too afraid to take that step. How many people could have been healed that day that weren't healed? We don't know, obviously, because the scriptures don't tell us, but it makes you wonder, how many people didn't step out that were supposed to be healed, but chose not to. And so we can look at this woman with the flow of blood, and we can see she stepped out in faith. She stepped out and believed, even though 12 years she went through this, even though she spent all of her livelihood, even though physicians could not heal her, could not help her. All of these things did not matter because she kept the faith. She kept her faith, knowing that if she just touched Jesus, she just touched his clothes, she would be healed. And we too need to believe the same thing because, with man, it's impossible. And with God, everything is possible. With the physicians, who cares what they say? It doesn't really matter. Why? Because they don't have the final say in anything. God does. You could be riddled with cancer. You could be riddled with whatever it is. You could be riddled with anxiety, with fear, with depression, with whatever you are going through. You could be in a financial strain. You could be going through anything that you could imagine. And let me tell you, God has the final say. Whatever you're going through, that doesn't have the final say. The devil doesn't have the final say. The physician doesn't have the final say. The doctor doesn't have the final say. Even you don't have the final say. God has the final say. And your faith, if you see that it said, your faith has made you well. Why did the faith make her well? It was because she had faith in Jesus. And if she didn't have that faith, she would have chosen not to step out because she didn't believe it, but she did believe. And you as well, likewise, need to believe that whatever you're asking for, you will receive. That's why the Bible, it tells us don't doubt. And those who doubt, that they shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. Why? Because it's like, the waves of the sea, they're tossed to and fro. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it just reminds us that doubting, God doesn't want us to doubt. He wants us to trust. He wants us to believe, and he wants us to have faith. And if you are trusting for something, if you're believing for something, maybe it's a child that you're wanting to have and you can't get pregnant, trust God and know that he is working on things. And just like the woman with the flow of blood, 12 years she waited. Who knows how long you're waiting? Who knows if you're going to have a child, if you're not going to have a child. I have no idea. Obviously, I can't tell you the future. This is all in God's hands. But what I am telling you is that you should believe until your very last breath on this earth that whatever you're asking for, you'll have. Whether it comes or not, you just keep believing it, and you keep praying, and you keep asking God, and you keep having the faith. And if you are somebody who maybe is older and you did have that faith and maybe, your past childbearing years, whatever the case is, Sarah was past childbearing years too. I just want to point that out. But I just want to say that there is always a purpose and a reason for everything. And your womb is not what makes you a woman. Your womb is not what makes you who you are, So I just want to say, and I know that that's not an easy thing to take grips with, but I'm saying this for anybody who is in this position, that God does love you and that he does have a purpose for everything and a plan for everything. Maybe you're supposed to help other women who cannot have a child. Maybe you're supposed to adopt. Maybe you're supposed to, there's so many other avenues that maybe you're not even realizing, because sometimes we get so clouded by what we want, not realizing that maybe God just had a different plan for us, And so I just felt like I was supposed to say all that. So if that's for you, then like I said, and I felt like I was supposed to say that. So God loves you and he's working on things and there's a purpose for everything. And so back to what I was saying was that just like the woman with the flow of blood, that we need to keep having faith and hoping for, maybe you're in financial issues or whatever you're having. Just trust God and know that he is going to come through for you. And, it's not always in the same way that we're hoping that it comes through. We might want one thing, but God, he might want a completely different thing. But just know that just because it's a different thing doesn't mean anything, because whatever God has is better than what you could think or imagine or dream of or plan. God, it's like we might plan our steps, but God is the one who establishes them. God is the one who knows the best way. We might think we know, but that doesn't mean we actually know. So if you're waiting on something and maybe you wanted a job and you're feeling down because you didn't get a job or whatever the case is, God, he's got a completely better plan for you, better and bigger. You just got to keep trusting him and keep your faith in him. Don't give up and don't doubt just because you're not seeing what you're wanting to see, So we'll keep that in mind as well. And so I just want to end here with saying that if you are hoping for something, remember the story of the woman with the flow of blood. And also remember the fact that, God, he doesn't look at the unseen. He doesn't look at the scene is what I meant to say. So we as humans, we look at what we can see and we say, well, I can't see anything happening, or I can't see how this could work, or I can't see how we can make more money, or I can't see how we could buy a house, or I can't see how we can have children. You're working off of what you can see, not realizing God, he works off of the unseen. He works off of things that we can't see physically with our eyes. And that is why we're supposed to not lean on our own understanding. We're supposed to trust him because he knows what we're supposed to be doing. He knows where we're supposed to go. He knows the right path to take. You look at certain things like, you look at, we talk about David in the Bible and how he was the youngest of his family, right? So God, he didn't look at him and say, well, you're the youngest. And, but he looked at the unseen. He looked at who he was going to be, who he could be. He looked at his potential. You look at Jesus Christ, he didn't just look at the fact like, I'm giving my son, he saw the future. He saw ahead to the unseen and what it would produce for us. And I'm so grateful that he did it, because if he didn't do that, then, obviously everything would be different. And I'm so grateful and thankful that he did. And so he looked ahead. In my own life, if this was three or 4 years ago, when I first started having anxiety and panic attacks, and I started having all of these things, and if God had looked at me and said, she's not usable because she's having all of this and I can't use her. But no, God looked at me and he lovingly helped me through all of this. And he has been leading me out little by little. At first it was hard to see, but I still trusted, and it was hard to see. And I just kept going, and I kept reading the Bible, and I kept following after him, and I kept trying, even though I kept failing, and I kept, it was hard for me, but look where I am now. I'm on a camera saying, talking about things that were hard for me to talk about at one point, and so God didn't look at me and see somebody broken and unusable. He saw what I could be and where I would be if I just chose to obey him and keep trusting in him and keep having hope in him and having faith in him. Just like Paul, he didn't look at Paul on the road to Damascus and say, well, he's not usable. He's persecuting Christians, and, he was doing so many bad things, but God didn't look at him and say, wow, you're doing all these bad things. I don't want you. Our God, he is so amazing. He looked at him and he knew the potential that he had. He knew what he could be if he just listened to God, followed after Jesus Christ, and did the things that he had asked him to do. And so I'm saying all this so you realize that sometimes it's hard to see, especially in the beginning. Like I said, when I was in the beginning of dealing with anxiety, it was so hard. Some nights I would lay there and I'm like, nothing's getting better. And, I would get so depressed and so sad because I would have those moments, but then God would encourage me to keep going and I would get back up and I would keep pushing and keep fighting. And then I'd feel down again. Then he'd push me up and keep encouraging me to keep going. This is who God is. He loves us so much that he wants us to keep going and keep fighting and keep pushing. And because I chose to obey, things are getting better. Obviously I still have work to do. Our whole lives we're going to have work to do. We're never going to be perfect. But I know that I still have work to do. I know there's still things I need to work on. And God, he is leading me through that. And it's all because I'm trusting him to blindly lead me, especially in the beginning. I couldn't see anything. I was distraught all the time. I don't remember even I lost my smile and my laugh and I couldn't see. All I could see was Jesus, and all I could believe and have faith and hope in was something that I couldn't see yet. I had hope and faith in these things, and God showed me along the way, and he gave me these things that encouraged me to keep going. And so I want to encourage you to keep going with the same comfort he gave me, with the same words that God would want to give you, is that he is with you. We saw all those scriptures. He is with you. He's walking through whatever it is you're going through. He's walking through them with you, and he knows how you feel. He's not oblivious to the fact of how you feel. He went through the things that we went through on earth, the temptations and the trials Jesus went through these things. He knows, he understands. He is not a high priest that doesn't understand. He does understand, and he loves you so very, very much. And I just want to encourage you, whatever you're waiting for, whatever you're asking for, don't give up your hope that is within you. Keep the hope, keep going. Even when you can't see, remember that as long as you can see Jesus, he will lead you out. That's all you need to see. Keep your eyes on Jesus and he'll lead you out. Even if it's dark, his light will lead you. And that's all I have for today. And thank you guys so much for watching.